Hey, folks, it's Lindsey Host. I'm back in the building with SPS Sports Psychology Solution. That is back for another SPS Edge podcast with the great crew on deck. I'm starting with my co-host, Terry McCord Jr. We've been having some off-camera contract negotiations. Terry's getting ready for that new big bag. He's like, look, man, I've been here, man. It's time for me to get mine. I am just joking. I'm saying it with nothing but love. Terry, good to have you back as always. Right. And also, we got the Rutherford clan, the guys. We got Jon and Patrick holding us down. Jon, the basketball insider. And we're not surprised that his son Patrick was able to come with some great insight as well. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Jon and Patrick, how you guys doing?
I'm great. Absolutely best.
Got you guys back on deck. And, of course, the face you don't see but we know is there hovering over us is Coach Orlando Watkins holding us down. Been holding us down since day one. So there you go. He's out. Cheers to that, right? This man is serious. So we'll go ahead and get started, guys. We gave the show last Thursday on draft day. And I think just after we finished the show, the draft got into effect. So all that speculation came to an end. I would probably say my most surprising thing, just to jump right to it, is San Francisco pick with Trey coming in as the quarterback choice at 3, and our guy, I'm drawing a complete blank on your boy.
Justin Fields,
yeah, dropping down to 12. But with that being said, whether that's the intro, Terry, I'll let you kind of open us up with your NFL draft, overview of what you thought and those things. And I also want to recognize our great sponsor, Horatio Williams and the Horatio Williams Foundation, Gilead Sciences, as well as Dick's Sporting Good. And we appreciate all that support. But, Terry, I'll let you take us with that. And Jon and Patrick want to get your thoughts on the NFL draft.
No, I really love this year's draft. First, it came down to it. My team, the Browns, I would rate their draft at A+. We really upped our depth on defense, and on offense, we got some really key playmakers that can really help things, down the stretch of the season. But one thing that I really liked about, Chicago. I mean, Chicago Bears, no one really talked about them, after signing Andy Dalton in the offseason. Everybody thought that they were kind of going to go in that direction after Andy did, somewhat decent down there in Dallas. But, I mean, Chicago, there are Chicago fans that really feel confident about that pick and getting Justin Fields. But, I mean, it was a big statement by the San Francisco 49ers to get Trey Lance. I mean, a guy that only played, 16 or 17 games, and, a guy that they weren't really sure of playing at FCS level. They made a huge statement in taking him at number 3. They see something in him. It was below the radar. Everybody was thinking Mac Jones or Justin Fields, but well, behold, it's Trey Lance. So, I mean, I hope he does well. That system is there, is put in place for him to succeed, I do believe. So, I mean, we see some late teams down there like Baltimore getting a couple guys. They got the guy from Rashad Bateman from Minnesota helping Lamar Jackson out. You see really good playoff teams add some pieces with this draft was stocked with a lot of talent. So, I mean, you see a lot of playoff teams get some good pieces.
Yeah, very good. That's a great overview. I'm going to defer to the guys in a second. But, for Trey Lance, man, I remember all the pre-draft talk, and his name was kind of bubbling a little bit. But, man, way to come through to get the call to be the number 3 pick and going to the 49ers. I think there's a huge financial incentive in that, too, because they got Jimmy G in his contract, and they use Patrick Mahomes as an example. They want to keep, their quarterbacks on that rookie deal as long as possible. I think Russell Wilson was famous for him being on that rookie deal for so long so they can kind of save money and then eventually build around him. But, good for him. Despite him having those few snaps compared to other players, they saw something in him. And, boy, what a place to go to get drafted. The San Francisco 49ers, a team with such a legacy, to go from there. But to come out of nowhere and jump in front of, Justin Fields, who I thought was going to go higher than that. But I guess now Chicago's your new favorite team, huh, Terry?
I mean, I got to stick with the Browns, but, I mean, do not be surprised if you see me in front of a TV cheering for them Bears. So, I hope he does well, man. The Bears is that one team where they're like a couple players away from making a big run, and we see it time and time again. So, hopefully he's that guy for him.
And one thing great about, getting drafted to Chicago, at the end of the day, it's such a great city. It's such a major city. I mean, to go there, I was just in Chicago maybe about a month or so ago, and just to ride past Soldier Field, it's like right there, you know what I'm saying? And just all the history that comes with that. And, it makes you think that a guy who can go there in the city will get behind him and they'd be looking to some good stuff. So I go to Jon and Patrick. What do you guys think on an NFL draft? What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Dave. Oh, I enjoy watching it. And I was extremely happy for Waddle and Devontae Smith. They had such prolific careers at Alabama, and I had to laugh at some of the stuff they were saying about Devontae Smith. Well, he's too small. He only weighs 170 pounds. They're going to beat him up. And then one of the analysts on ESPN said, well, Mel Blount doesn't play anymore in the NFL. Lester Hayes doesn't play anymore in the NFL. You're not allowed to hit guys when you go across the middle. There's a reason that guys throw for 4,000 yards. It's because they changed the rules. And Devontae Smith, I'm just hoping that he has the kind of career that he had at Alabama. But, following the Lions a little bit, I was glad to see that they took care of some trenches. That's where it all starts. But overall, I enjoy watching it. I get excited for these young men and the opportunity they have in front of them. And some are going to live up to the hype, and some of them aren't. And there's going to be some guys that were free agents, not drafted, that are free agents that are going to become stars. The NFL is a growing man league, and it's always fun to watch young guys come in and get their shot at playing. So I enjoy it, and everybody wants to give everybody grades, and I understand that. It's all part of it, but to me, I gotta wait and see.
Gotta wait and see. Right. Yeah, definitely, Jon Patrick. I want to get your thought on that, but to the points that you made, Jon, that's a really good point. That we have all this build up all season long to this night. The guys get drafted, and we probably can come back and look at this film, a year from now, 2 years from now, and say who, what, when, where. You just don't really know, and they put all the speculation into these guys, and what they do is, I think they what you've done is you set Devontae Smith up to have a great NFL career by doubting him. Just putting it out there, oh, you're a small guy and you can't do this and that. And with the right kind of coaching that can set him up for the right kind of routes, he'll be successful. So I think you kind of put these guys in a position to be even more successful when you build them up. And it makes me worry about the guys that you say are a done deal and going to be successful, because you don't know how they're going to add up to things. And just like the NBA, I think it's all about the team you go to. Some guys will catch the right kind of ride. Patrick Mahomes is an excellent example, not taking anything away from his ability, but, he got with a great team, a great unit, great support all the way around, and everything fell in place. Of course, he did what he had to do. Patrick, what's your take on the NFL draft?
I enjoyed it. I love watching it. I saw some key moves, and I was happy to see Trey Lance go number 3. I was happy to see that him going to playing in the FCS didn't hold him back, because I believe he didn't lose a game. And I was happy to see him go number 3. And then I was happy to see Jalen Waddle get reunited with his quarterback. And then I was happy to see Devontae Smith get reunited with his quarterback. So there were some cool things that happened, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, something to be said about that. Going back to Trey Lance, do you think the criticism was fair that he played a minimum, amount of games, and they even talk about the number of snaps and plays he had compared to so many other people? I mean, you think that was a fair criticism on him?
I do, but it also there's 2 edges to every coin. He's with less play, he's had less games and more tread on the tires. He should be healthy and ready to go, and
durability.
Then he just sat the whole year to get healthy and everything. And if you were to go by what those guys love, the statistics and all that, and the analytics, he's the biggest, strongest, fastest quarterback in the draft.
Wow. There's something to be said. And also something to be said about going to a team that isn't, a well-known Big Ten team, but that's a statement that if you're talented And John knows this as a coach himself. We'll find you, and it seemed that has seemed to work out. That's great to hear. I want to stay on the NFL draft, but kind of switch gears a little bit. We want to shout out to Swag. Shout out to our guys, the Streets of Talking Podcast Network. We want to talk about Don Houston and talk about Clarence Babor and all our listeners down in Mississippi and all the other states that are home to these SWAC teams. And I want to give you some props for being Johnny on the spot, Patrick, when you shot me that note regarding Deion Sanders' comments regarding the NFL draft. I caught a little bit of it, but you were all over it, and I definitely appreciate that. Coach Primetime took issue with this 2021 NFL draft not featuring zero players from HBCUs. And he said he was out here watching. That's right, mind blown, right? Mind blown. That he was out here watching this talent. And to his credit, you would think that Deion Sanders, a Hall of Famer, does have an eye for talent. And he's not. And then and I think there's something to be said about this. And John, I want to get your opinion of it since you act as our walking timeline in many cases. You give us some feedback from things back in the day. He wasn't saying I got players on my team. He said I played against players. I think that's very notable. So this wasn't one of those, let me just big up, Jackson State. He was like, we played against talent that should have been out there, and there's something to be said about that. So, John, I want to get your opinion about that because, fortunately, I remember watching the ESPN. There's like a 3-part series, the history of college football, which is an amazing historical piece. Right. Not even from just a football standpoint, but from the history of America, how it talks about the origin of football, the impact and the ideology behind it, and its impact on white men in particular, and how that carried through, all that kind of stuff. But John, I'm sure you could tell us about a time when the HBCUs were just prime ground to be able to bring guys into the NFL, particularly black players. So give us a history lesson, if you will, if you don't mind, about HBCUs and the impact they had, and to be at this point right now where players aren't even going to these HBCUs who could end up having NFL careers.
Well, first of all, I applaud Deion Sanders for speaking up for the HBCU schools. I think that's very important, okay? I think he took his status in the media and he let his views be known. And I applaud him for that. This is one of the reasons that he's the right man for that job at the right time. And I think things are going to get better. I think they're going to be able to get better players. But going back in history, I mean, the SWAC sent players, there's Hall of Famers. I mean, I've got a list here that is just unbelievable.
Talk about it.
Guys that came out of there. But that was when the Southwest Conference wouldn't allow black players. The Southeast Conference wouldn't let black players play. So you basically had Syracuse in the East, you had some schools in the Big Ten, and you had some schools in the old Pac-12, which was then called the Pac-8. Now, here's the problem that they face. And I'm going to give you a perspective of being a high school coach and somebody coming in to recruit one of my kids. First questions I would ask: you paid for summer school? The MAC didn't. The Big 12 did, and the Big 10 did. So if it came down to going to a mid-level program in the Big 12, I thought it was better for the kid than going to the MAC, because they had a 12-month training table. They had trainers available to them 12 months a year, not during the school year. So there's a lot of different factors. Well, this is what Deion Sanders the obstacle he's going to run into. Okay? The facilities, the extra help in education, everything. How do you travel? What do they pay for? Do they pay for summer school? This is important because kids stay on the campus now for 12 months. And you know, I know MAC schools that go out and try to raise money from alumni just to help to pay for their kids' summer school because the Mid-American Conference doesn't pay for summer school. So there's a lot of factors that come in to getting players in from the high school level to the college level. And this is hurting the SWAC. So they need to generate, and with what's happening now with the hiring of some of the coaches, and that's why they need people who have media experience and who have that brand that can bring attention to it, that's going to cause other entities like corporation, alumni to spend more money. Because let's face it right now, Deion Sanders comes into your house, wants your son. Michigan State wants your son. Alabama wants your son. And you start comparing what's available to your son at Jackson State and what's available. Is he really realistically going to be able to compete to get that 4- and 5-star player? This is the obstacle he has. Now, what these schools give an opportunity is for a young man to grow. You know, I've said this many times. You have to look at a kid when he's in high school, and you got to look at what's the size of his feet. What's his reach? What's his frame look like? Because some of these kids that you don't think are worthy of Power 5 schools in 2 or 3 years are going to be. So the Deion Sanders of the world have to be excellent judges of looking where a young man's going to be 2 years down the road.
Wow.
And there's different things that you have to look at to determine that. But, you know, I applaud him for going up and saying what he did. And now, what's our girl from Michigan State, Jamil? They used to work
at Jamil Hill.
Jamil Hill. I have a lot of respect for her. She got on a program I listened to yesterday, and she said that the cancellation of games was not helpful, that them not playing ball and then the cancellation of games they had this spring didn't help them. That hurt them. So that might have been one of the factors. But seriously, they got to get better talent. And they're never going to be able to recapture what they had in the Eddie Robinson days and back in the day. They're not going to, it's going to be very, very hard to capture that, because I'm going to tell you, I got a list in my book of Hall of Famers that come out of those schools. And I'll tell you, you know, Lem Barney, Deacon Jones, Walter Payton, Michael Strahan, Doug Williams, Steve McNair. I mean, the list goes on and on. The pride of the history of the role in football in that league is unparalleled. I mean, it produced superstars. Wow. George Atkinson. I mean, goes on the Raiders. Al Davis. Man, every year you would get 3 or 4 guys you never heard of that came from the SWAC that wore that black and silver and ended up being Hall of Famers. So I hope and I pray and I wish the best for the SWAC. And I think that they're making some moves. And what Deion did, I thought was tremendous. I really did. I'm glad he stood up and he let his voice be known. And I was very, very proud of him as a human being for what he said.
Yeah, that was important because before I get Patrick and Terry to chime in on that, I appreciate what you said, all the things you said, Jon, because Deion making that comment is one thing because it got everybody talking. But to your point, there's some other things that almost make this one of those unfunded mandates that we heard about in politics years ago, where you can say we want them to come here, but to your point, do you have the resources? And you're right. if I had Coach Mel Tucker in my living room and Deion Sanders, trying to recruit my son, and I know a little bit more about the process based on what you brought up. Because what you said, Jon, was a lot of times people bypass, and Terry, I want to get your thought as the most recent high school graduate. A lot of guys bypass or don't even know to ask those questions. Well, what about summer school? And then you look up, you made a commitment, and then you're headed down there, and you're like, well, I can't even go to the summer. They want me to pay, and so on and so forth, because you don't even know to ask that. Or you may be assuming, and that's never a good thing to do, as we know, but you may be assuming, well, when one of my partners went to Michigan State, he's already there. He got 12 months of support compared to me going out. And I just talk about my experience, not at a swag school, but I attended Morehouse College as a freshman back in 1993, 94. And I just would look at the disadvantage from a technology standpoint. I mean, we were still waiting in line to register for classes when everyone else was doing phone registration. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds very archaic because nowadays you just register online. I mean, that's not a thing. But there was always this thing about being behind. Even our mail system was very antiquated. So I can only imagine that there's still levels to this as we go further. But, at the end of the day, I think Deion still is in a position to be able to make a significant change. Then you hear things about Eddie George going to Tennessee State, talking about Marshall Faulk coming back to Southern, giving support. But the key is going to be those corporate contracts. That's going to be it.
No doubt.
And I think what can happen is when that swag, and I'm making up a term right here, and hopefully I'll get my royalty check off this. But when that swag goes on sale, when they start selling that HBCU culture, start selling that, and those corporations lock into it, and they see the benefit of being able to say, look, man, look what you got going on, because you always got those, very traditional marching band. Then you got the swag. Then you got all the battle of the bands. And when they sell that, when they find a way to marry that and sell that for top dollar, then you'll start seeing that change happen. I think there's a formula for that. So we said a lot about that. Jon, what's your take on what your dad said? I'm sorry, Patrick, I get mixed up. I look at you guys and say that. My apologies. Patrick, what's your take on what your dad shared? And I know that being in that household, those things are just embedded in your brain just by being around your dad. But what's your take on what he's saying, especially from a more youthful perspective, when you had your dad who practically lived through these experiences, and then you're kind of hearing about it now, but seeing Deion and the comment he made on television resonating with you? What do you think about that, Patrick?
I agree with them. And there's always you want to go there. It's an HBCU, and as a young black man, you want to go to those universities, and you want to make an impact there, and help your community. And it's kind of like last year, Thon Maker's brother used to play for Pistons. I believe it was Tennessee State he picked, or what was it? I can't remember which.
It was Howard.
Right.
Yep.
And the first thing I thought to myself was, how many national games do they play on TV? How many times are they going to be on ESPN this year? Or how many times, I just thought about his exposure being so limited, but it's like I agree with my dad, there's been legends that came from there, but the way that they broadcast these games now, and the way that certain schools get certain exposure, they don't call them blue bloods for a reason. They get all the attention. We know, all of us know, being Michigan State guys, Michigan gets 10 times the press, 100 times the press as we do. And it's usually in a better light than ours, So that's the only problem I see is you want to go to those places, especially being a young black man, and you want to help your community and you want to boost your community up. But then is the exposure there for you? If you need that extra boost and you don't have that popularity of a McDonald's All-American where you could go somewhere for just 6 to 9 months and then enter the draft. If you need exposure, is that the place you're going to be able to go?
Right. Now, you make an excellent point, and as I think about that, I want to shout out Aaron Mays, one of our loyal supporters. Aaron has been supporting our podcast for a long time, and I know he's probably out here listening. He's going to have an opinion, and he'll leave a comment at a later date. But, I'm glad you went right after your dad because you brought up another point. Because I'm trying to think this thing through, Patrick. It's about strategy. You make an excellent point. You talk about Don Maker. Don Maker was the perfect guy to step out and go to Howard. Why? Because he already had an NBA plug. You know what I'm saying? It's like he could leverage his situation a little bit more because he was already plugged in through his brother. So I think it's going to take those steps. And I'm grateful that, John, when you gave us the historical aspect, Patrick, when you talk about the Don Makers of the world, I'm thinking that now it can really be about who's in a strategic position where they can do it. Every kid that goes on to school isn't scraping from the bottom. Some kids are coming from middle class, upper middle class homes, and they can be like, you know what, my parents can pay for school, so I can go. So these different things are in place to be able to leverage that, and I think that the strategic aspect will continue to put itself together, and we'll be able to see that. Terry, the particular question I have for you as the most recent high school player leaving a high school program, especially to the point that John made earlier about not, resources not being there for the summer. I just want to paint a scenario for you. You're at Eastern High School. Shout out to the Quakers. Somebody comes in and says, look, man, I'm getting recruited, man. I'm getting recruited for this opportunity. I might be able to go play for Southern. Like, wow, man, that's cool. That's dope. But I still, there's another opportunity out there. But between going to Southern and going, to the other, a Power 5, where they may even say there's a good chance I may not, be able to do anything. I may not be able to play soon. How easy is it to overlook or not be aware of that question or that statement that John made about, hey, will I be able to get financial support over the summer? Like how easy is it to get past that? And just check on something. We might be getting some feedback. Orlando's telling me to just make sure there's any outside sources going on. Just keep an eye out. But anyway, so Terry, to your point, what do you think? What do you think about that? If you put yourselves back in the shoes of being back in high school and getting this type of opportunity, but not knowing that, hey, I didn't even know that there was resources not available for me.
Well, I mean, I've been through that in my situation in high school. At Lansing Eastern, a lot of times, we were underfunded. Resources weren't there. I mean, I recall I was in an AP class my 10th grade year, and I didn't have a teacher for 3 months. And I'm talking about AP. Like, we didn't have books, we didn't have a teacher. We had teachers coming in and out. Like, it was bad. But I mean, it all goes down to the student. There were times where I had to just simply ask questions. And that was something that I did well at. I'll be the first one to be like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Somebody show me what to do. And that's something that has got me through my high school years, is just simply asking questions, finding somebody that knows how to do it to teach me. I'm humble enough to just be like, hey, show me the way. But I think in regards of college, I think first off, you got to be honest with yourself. What are you looking for in the college? You know what I mean? What are you looking for? That's something that I would ask too when I make that transition from LCC to whatever school I choose and apply to. I'm gonna ask all the necessary questions, because then again, myself and a lot of athletes starting to realize now that you're there for that degree. I mean, you're there for that degree first. You're investing in that. That school is investing in you. They're making money off you. You should be getting something back from that school. And so, I've always believed in, if you're good, they'll find you. I mean, exposure nowadays is very important. But I think nowadays, this upcoming community of basketball players like a Mikey Williams and Bronny James, Mikey has gone on record to say on Twitter where, I may pick an HBCU. I'm trying to do right by my people. I don't care. And I think it always takes one person to make that move for others to follow. Maker is a great example of someone making that move, but it's going to take a little bit more. And that's something that I think Deion realizes as he uses his voice. Deion is learning by the best teacher, experience. Because, I mean, Deion Sanders, I would say, didn't really know much about those players until he's seeing them. He's scouting against them. He's trying to get his guy. He's coaching them. So he knows that they have great talent around in the HBCU schools, but they also want to put their guys on display and help use their platform and use that exposure. And so, I mean, I really do feel like a lot of times that does get in players' mind. If I'm playing on TV and if I'm playing on this, if you, like I said last week, If you go on Sunday Night Football, I love how they do this. They list all the schools. Each guy says their name, and then they say where they're from in their school. I love how they do this. They go in there, they say, I'm John Doe, and I'm from University of New Mexico. A lot of us probably don't even know where that's at. We know because, you know, we're sports heads, but people be like, New Mexico?
Right.
It just goes to show where if you're good, they'll find you. And so if you just do your work and honestly get what's best for you, they're gonna find you. So I think that whole thing of beating the stigma, like this whole stigma about community college, all these stigmas are gonna be beat one day. Time will tell, but slowly but surely, these stigmas are gonna be beat.
No, you make an excellent point, Terry. You know, I think it's important. I just kind of want to keep that same theme going. It's about being strategic. You know, what works for you, and if you have that opportunity to do it, then so be it. But I do think that we're seeing something that's going to have an impact because it's so funny how corporate America moves, man. And John, you know from having corporate experiences, I'm sure Patrick from watching your dad, corporate never gets out front. They always kind of want to see somebody else, you know, kind of make, you know, Patrick, you smile like your dad must say that all the time. Like they never want, they want, it's just everybody's worried about themselves and keeping their position. So no one gets out front. But as they see things happening bit by bit, they creep behind it. What's your take on that, John?
Well, I agree with you. You know, you know, everybody's waiting for the next quarterly report, and what's the earnings, and you know, Terry really made me happy with his segment right there, because that's a hopeful young voice, and hopefully there's other young people that think the same way Terry does. And it just takes a few guys to make that move and to do that. And listen, I am 100% for that. I hope someday that I'll be alive, that I can turn the TV on January 1st and Jackson State beats Florida State in the Sugar Bowl.
Wow.
I hope I'm alive for that day.
Man, I don't think that's too far off.
I want to be there.
I don't think that's too far off. And I
and I just I appreciate what Terry just said in that segment. But you're right. I mean, corporate America is they're it's a different world, okay? And they're not going to lead the race, like you say. They're going to wait and see. And hopefully they can recognize not only they can recognize the value of the SWAC in other schools and get out and be a part of the solution and help things. So let's hope that comes through.
Yeah, let's mark our calendars and we'll look back in that see. But for all you guys, I appreciate you guys' feedback on this topic. I want to be able to again thank our sponsor, Horatio Williams, Horatio Williams Foundation, Gilead Sciences, and Dick's Sporting Good. And also shout out to my guys, the Streets of Talking Podcast Network, Don Houston and Clarence Barbour. And I think that, man, sooner than later, we'll see something happen. You may even see some traction on that as soon as next season with, you know, people making those strategic moves. And our last thing I'll say on this topic before we get to the next thing, in this era of the woke athlete, in this era of, you know, post-George Floyd, if you will, I think people are ready to make more of a decision that's based on their conscience as opposed to saying, I just want to go along. I mean, a lot of guys are ready to get out here. And hell, nowadays with social media, you talk about exposure, Patrick, hell, you may not get exposure on CBS, but your Twitter and your IG is popping.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you like, you know, whatever. And then, you know, again, we have, you know, generations of wealth now where people are kind of well off. They're like, man, I'm straight. I don't need that. I can bite the bullet. You know what I'm saying? And go to a HBCU because that's not the case. So I think that's something we can look out and see. And we can watch out for going forward. I want to go to another topic, man. Something that was kind of irking me, and it's the whole thing. I don't walk around looking for controversial sports topics. I don't. You know, my ex-wife would probably say I do, but my point is I don't. But seeing this whole Aaron Rodgers thing play out, Aaron's holding out, you know what I'm saying, whatever, right on time, Orlando. Seeing this play out, and we had a summer of hate on Deshaun Watson, but nobody is coming out arguing that, you know, who is Aaron to hold out? He signed a contract. He's saying, I'm not going back. I mean, the same communication that Deshaun Watson was having, the same thing. But nobody is saying this. And on top of that, now all of a sudden, Deshaun Watson has this, you know, these whole masseuse legal issues hanging over his head. In other words, make me think the text like, all right, you keep popping, we're going to put something out there. So where's Aaron Rodgers' dirt? When does that going to come out? Will we ever see that? Right. So I'll start with you, Terry, then I'll go on to Jon and Patrick. You know, I mean, you were fired up when we talked about this too, but I mean, what is it that obvious? I don't think this is a reach for me to say, why isn't there a fair amount of criticism for Aaron Rodgers holding out compared to what we saw for Deshaun Watson?
I mean, people are looking for excuses for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, personally, I feel for Rodgers, but then again, I don't. I would say I feel for Rodgers because of the drafting. I mean, they drafted a quarterback in the second round, which is crazy to me. And they were already planning for the future, just like they did for Brett Favre when they got Rodgers. So I can kind of understand where it's coming from. But at the same time, dude, you're 37 and you just signed an extension that's going to get you paid. And you're complaining? Like, you better take what you can get right now. You're 37. You're on a Super Bowl contending team. If getting more assets to your team, that's cool. But your team does have the right to build for the future. That's their job. Their job is to make the best team now and have the best team in the future. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if you're going to get injured and be done. Your body's getting older. You have a great contract. You're making money. So, I mean, I don't understand where the criticism is not coming from. I don't understand that because literally he's 37. He's making probably more than he should right now at his age. But I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but that's a lot of money. And so you got a guy like Watson where he is getting paid a pretty penny, but his team and his ownership isn't making the moves. I mean, they traded his number one receiver. The line, I mean, Watson, as we've seen, runs, can't stay in the pocket to save his life. Mm-hmm. He's playing his heart out so much. I remember this drive. They were playing the Indianapolis Colts. Deshaun Watson brings them down magically to win the game. They're down there at the 1 yard line. The center muffles the snap. And Watson, all you saw was Watson just put his head down and just go to the bench and just start crying. I mean, you could just see the passion. And his ownership, his team, J.J. Watt even said, man, dude, we wasted one of your years. He understands these years don't come by. And so, I mean, so he understands that. Everyone starts to understand it, but they're starting to put that blame. Oh, you signed the contract. A-Rod signed the contract. Oh, dude, your team cares. They're trying to build around you. They're building around A-Rod. He still has his number one receiver, has a great defense. Like, I don't understand where Aaron Rodgers feels this sense of entitlement. Dude, you won one Super Bowl. You have been there times and time again. You guys have choked. Just, I hate to be that guy to tell another athlete to be quiet and play. Keep your contract, man. There's no sense of you to keep crying, but I do understand his concerns, though. But at a certain point, dude, you're 37. Like I said, like you're 37 and you're making a pretty penny as a quarterback. Take your money.
Wow. I appreciate that. I'm going to go to the Rutherford party over here. Jon, what do you think about that?
Well, you know, you always ask for historical perspective. Vince Lombardi, the famous coach from the Green Bay Packers, had an all-pro center by the name of Jim Ringo. They win the NFL championship, and Vince Lombardi walks in the locker room, and Jim Ringo pulls him by the arm and says, by the way, I want a $5,000 raise next year. Vince Lombardi says to him, well, he said, give me a minute. He goes in his office. He comes back in 10 minutes, and he says, well, you'll have to negotiate that with the Philadelphia Eagles because you've been traded. So here's how the times change. Okay. And Aaron Rodgers you can be pissed off about what they draft and stuff. Well, why don't you go tell them that you want to be the general manager and the quarterback? See how that works out for you, okay? And he gets a pass for all this. And Deshaun Watson, who is a true warrior since he hit the scene in Clemson, okay? All of a sudden, when he asked to be traded, does all this stuff come up. It wasn't before. We never heard anything but good things about it.
I know.
So, this is a typical stupid people who bring this stuff up and put this stuff into light. And yet Aaron Rodgers can not talk to his mother and father for 10 years. Do you know that? Do you know that, Terry?
I do not.
To talk to his mother and father.
He has been known to be a jerk, though, to players, receivers. So, I mean, it fits.
Parents,
I hope that's
and
what you're getting at. What I'm
commercials
saying.
like that.
You know,
he's still a State Farm. They talking about him being the host of Jeopardy and not talking to your parents.
I saw that.
God bless him. God bless him. Enjoy yourself. But if you think he's leaving football, I got some swampland for you to buy. He ain't going nowhere. He loves all this stuff. He loves it.
Is he gonna be a Green Bay Packer this season?
You know what? Be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. Like Terry says, a team that went and got the ball first and goal at the 8 to compete with Tampa, and ended with turning the ball over to Tampa with the ball still at the 8. So, be careful what you ask for. You might get it.
Yeah, we go see. Patrick, what's your thoughts?
I got a bit of a different take on it.
Okay.
I agree with everybody with the I think it's unfortunate how it unfolded for Deshaun Watson and how all this came out of nowhere after the trade rumors, and me and my dad talk about it all the time. But at the same time, we're talking about 2 millionaires that get paid $30 million to throw a football around. There's other things, but
it's true.
And Deshaun Watson is going through it right now. You know what I mean? Outside of football, his character is being threatened and
never been questioned before, though.
Yeah,
always been a solid image and solid brand.
Yeah,
never heard anything about him.
He's supposed to be he's super involved in the community.
Yeah,
he's a big time mama's boy. Till he bought, the first thing he did was buy his mama a house and a car. And that's all you've ever heard of him being a good guy. And it's the opposite for Aaron Rodgers, if you ask me.
That's true.
You've always heard him, but at the same time, you can't put your
There you go. We got you.
Okay. I can't put my opinions on somebody else that I don't know. You know what I mean? These are the biggest, they have the biggest egos in the world, the superstar athletes. And personally, I believe you wouldn't get to that level if you didn't have a big ego. This is a quarterback. There's 30 jobs in the world. So he's gonna feel some type of way. I'd like to see him follow in the legendary Peyton Manning's footsteps.
Go to Denver.
Von Miller's healthy.
I like that.
For that corner. Hey, leave Green Bay. Let's go to Denver and win a Super Bowl.
Let's see what happens. I mean, there's already a blueprint set up. But we'll have to keep an eye out and see how that plays out. But I appreciate everybody's perspective on that and recognizing the difference. And you're right. Thank you for making me aware that, John. I didn't know that you got a mama's boy and Deshaun Watson, and I ain't talking to my mama's boy. This guy, but yet you still see him with the big contracts, the big opportunities for State Farm and etc. But it is what it is. But with the remaining time we have, I really want to focus on the topic of Imani Bates. If we were going to look at talking about a little NBA stuff, but in this case, man, I really want to talk about this because as of recently, he decommitted to Michigan State. And I think there's a lot of talk about, well, he probably never was going to go. But I want to put another theory out there for debate before I finalize everything with my comments at the end of our discussion. And if Orlando, if you could put that clip up there, I think that there may be an issue between who was going to be the alpha dog between Imani Bates and Jaden Akins out here getting it done. So if you notice, you can play that clip again. That's Jaden coming down. Looks like he looked Imani off, but Imani's body language is like a middle school kid, man. It's like, oh man, you didn't give me the ball. But we got coaches on this video looking at this. I think Jaden made a great basketball play. He saw the defender coming trailing.
That's a good move.
If he would have put that up there, he could have got undercut, could have got hurt. It was just a bad play. He looks him off and he scores. So it's like, oh, I'm supposed to get the ball all the time. Now, I think that this is probably one of the main reasons why he eventually decommitted, because Tom Izzo probably was like, dude, y'all got to work it out. And I think there probably was something building where there was this expectation that Imani was going to end up being the alpha male with nobody there to push back. I know Jaden. I know his people. I know from how he's cut. He's not a soft kid. He's soft-spoken, but he's not a soft kid. And I'll go further and say, it don't even mean that you got to be a hardcore kid, but some people grow up with principles that, look, you ain't going to punk me. And right is wrong is wrong. And those are the most dangerous kids sometimes, because those are the guys who ain't looking for a fight, but they'll take it to anybody based on that. So my take is, for those who may say Imani never was going to touch a college campus, that's one thing. But I think that they realize that, hey, man, this may not work between the two of them at Michigan State. And that may have been a reason to give them out. I'll start with you, Terry, on that. And, of course, I'll go to Patrick and John. But, Terry, what's your take on that after seeing that clip and just hearing all the talk? And you believe me, you don't have to agree with me on that theory, but I'm just curious to know what you think.
No, the only thing I saw wrong about that video is I wish he would have kept going with his right hand. He needs to work on that offhand. But that's
right.
I was playing
with his dominant hand, that left hand, right.
No, it was a good move. I like the move. A big, strong, grown man move in the middle. It was a great move. But my biggest thing about Imani committing, it's one thing to be disappointed as a fan. I mean, we all had our letdowns where the guys transferring, guys leaving, anything like that. But we're talking about a 16-year-old high school kid. You know what I mean? And I'll take it another level. Another black man, seeing another black man get treated so poorly. One, I feel like I got to speak up because, one, he's just like me. I mean, in all reality, he's just like me, another black man striving to chase his dreams. I'm never going to speak poorly about that, first off. And two, just because he doesn't pick my school doesn't mean I get to diminish his character. Like that's very disappointing that fans are really talking about this 16-year-old kid. Oh, forget him. He's a terrible guy. Oh, what bad character. I mean, who are we to judge this kid at 16? I mean, I was barely figuring out my outfits at 16. This dude and you telling me this kid, and I'm calling him a kid. I mean, he's a young man, but I'm calling him a kid because we have to realize he's still growing as a young man. He's still learning what to think. And what we're expecting him, he's had almost as big of a spotlight as LeBron James. I mean, they've been talking about this kid since 8th grade.
Sports Illustrated.
I've been knowing the Imani Bates name since 8th grade, his 8th grade year. And so, I mean, we're expecting him to figure out life at 16. I mean, it just amazes me. I mean, and I saw a comment, a guy, Wendell Green Jr., a player that just committed to Auburn, a really good player. I played him AAU, but I mean, he's commented and said, man, Imani had one bad weekend. I mean, he had one bad weekend. Everybody's like, man, this bad weekend he had at the Mania, the AAU tournament, does that mean that he's not good enough, or is Imani still good? Is he overrated? I mean, these are all the same people that were loving Imani Bates as soon as he committed. Oh, we got Imani Bates. All on, everyone's talking about him. But then he decides to go a different route, as 16-year-olds should. They're rethinking their life. I mean, they're 16. And so he's rethinking it, checking out more options. I mean, as early commits commonly do, they're like, oh, let me take a step back and relook at my options instead of just jumping into one thing. That's completely fine. You're young. So, I mean, I just don't think the criticism is very necessary. You know, does he come with that superstar ego and that attitude? Yes. I mean, he's a big time player. I mean, you don't make it in this league like they said about like Patrick said about Aaron Rodgers. You don't make it in this league without some kind of ego. And so, I mean, is he going to come with, you know, a lot of attention? Yes. Is that the Izzo way? No. I think Izzo definitely prefers, you know, a little low under the radar kind of players like a Draymond and those kind of guys, which is completely fine. That doesn't mean you diminish the kid's character just because he's looking for something different. It bothers me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really think, as we talked before offline, as I get ready to bring Patrick and Jon in for the remaining time that we have, sometimes fame blinds us to the fact of what your age is. And let's just be honest. Jealousy makes people say that, hey, you getting all this fame and attention, let me bring it to you. And one thing I will say, I do agree with him being a 16-year-old, we must be mindful, but I do feel that it's fair to criticize him for basketball plays, not corporate moves, not how you like whatever. And that's really not necessarily him. That's his dad. And shout out to Elgin Basin's dad for the decisions he's making and being a groundbreaker in that regard. But with that, I'll go to Jon and Patrick. Let's give me guys a take on that. What do you think about the basketball play? And do you think that was big enough to be a reason why? Or was it a foregone conclusion that he wasn't going to step on the college campus regardless of this issue or not?
Well, I when you told me that you wanted to discuss this, I went to work. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to bring a little bit different perspective. All right. Number one, Terry's right. He's a young kid, thrust into the limelight, picture on the cover of Sports Illustrated at, I believe, 15, saying he's the next LeBron. Okay, let's exit right away and let's look at what's happened. Nike came in. Nike's got him. Nike has sponsored his AAU program.
Bates Fundamentals.
Nike sponsored his school. The Monty Bates Academy is sponsored and paid for by Nike. So Nike is going to determine what this young man does. And I'm going to tell you, I found out something yesterday. Nike is trying to form a high school league.
Wow.
Montverde, Oak Hill, La Lumiere, Bates is trying to get 12 teams. And they're trying to negotiate a contract with ESPN for next year.
Oh, wow.
Nike is going to dictate Amani Bates.
Oh, wow. Breaking news. You heard
where
it
he's
here first.
Going, what he's going to do. Now, you also know that he is not eligible under current rules.
He can't go
until the draft of 2023.
Right.
That leaves 2 years. Okay. So now, if he goes to college next year, he could have his 1 year of college and then circumvent that because he's not 19 until January 2023. So now let's talk about basketball. Okay. The last 2 weekends, he's been in Indiana. He plays on an inferior team. He does not have the players around him that the players he's competing against have.
That is true.
Why is this? I asked Elgin, get your son some more players around him. Get some players around him. Do you know that in the last 2 weeks, you want to talk basketball, he's had 2 assists for every 7 turnovers. He has shot under 30% inside the lane, inside the arc, because physically he's not able to take the ball to the rack. He's getting stopped at the rack. Okay, he's shooting 38% from the behind the arc, which is good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I talked to 2 NBA guys, and everybody says, well, comparing to Kevin Durant, that is stopped by the NBA.
No
the
comparison.
NBA is now comparing him to Brandon Ingram. And
Okay.
Brandon Ingram has a 7'3" wingspan. Amani Bates has a 6'9" wingspan. And just to put it in perspective, Kevin Durant has 7'5" wingspan. Now, what does that mean? That means on my jump shot, 11 feet. You got to get up to 11 feet to mess with my shot. Kevin Durant can shoot over people. Now, let's talk about money. Let's talk about how do I get my shot off? Okay? What do I do? What's the things he's doing well? He's coming off a ball screen well, and they say a step back jump shot is good. The three-pointer is very good. But there's being some questions answered. Now, also, I had a whole discussion about what needs to be done. I had one guy, an NBA scout, tell me, you know what? Elgin, his dad, needs to get him somebody who knows basketball. He needs to get a better understanding of the game and how to utilize other people in the game to uplift his game and also create better situations.
You referring to a coach, the coach of his team?
Yeah, someone needs to get him. And the first thing the guy told me was understand the fundamentals of the game. They think he needs work at that. He needs work at physical training. He's too slight. He's not taking hits. He's not scoring through contact.
Right.
Okay. He needs physically, he needs to get stronger. He needs his nutrition. He needs some things. He needs to focus on getting better at some things. And I hope that he does. I hope all these things happen for him. But they were really surprised, everybody that saw it the last 2 weeks, of how his team is not as good. They lost 4 straight last week in Indiana.
Even prior to that, he
was 20 every game he played.
Oh wow!
They haven't won a game.
They got beat. You said they got beat by 20. They got beat by 20 every game.
Yeah, every game. Every game. They played Fort Wayne last week. And then even before that, I believe it was Evansville. And now they don't even know. Nike doesn't even know whether they're going to go to the Peach Jam, which this year is going to be in Augusta, Georgia, and is going to be 2 weekends, not one. And so, there's some things, but let's go back, always go back. Nike footing the bill. This is how basketball is run today. Nike runs the game. Nike runs the basketball game. They fund money into the advertisement for the TVs. They fund money with the players. They are creating players. Do you know that he refused to go to the Nike development camps 2 years in a row? He has refused to play in USA basketball, going to these camps in these places where they judge these kids' talent and try to develop their talent. He's refused both Nike and the USA basketball for the last 2 years.
Why do you think that is?
Humble.
I think that his dad needs to open him up and let his son go a little bit.
Yeah, because I think it's a matter of Elgin not want to give up that control and that influence. Because when you go there, that too.
The money's going to Elgin, not him.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. Patrick, your dad said a lot. He broke some information and shared a lot. And we're getting to the point. We're getting past the hour mark, but that's okay. We're going to keep going. But I want to get your views on what your dad said, particularly as it relates to Amani and whether you can agree that some other things are in play that's going to determine his future.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything my dad said, and I mean, I don't necessarily think that it's the way basketball is now. I think it's been like that for 30 years, 40 years, whatever. You know, I guess, I mean, you can't. Nike told LeBron what to do 20 years ago. So, if you're a caliber player at 15, I don't care if you're 12. Nike come knocking on that door. And then you're going to have NBA scouts getting you ready and trying to get you primed up to go to the league. I don't care if he goes to college or not. I know he's going to keep playing basketball. That's all I want to see. I don't care what stage it's on. Because, Terry said the first time he saw him was in the 8th grade. First time I saw him was in the 6th grade at a camp. And they were calling him the next Kevin Durant. And I couldn't believe it. And he has so much more to worry about than what school he goes to or what happens, because he looks malnourished right now. He's 6'7", and that works when you're playing against 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds, and everybody's way smaller than you. But in a year, 2 years from now, you're going to enter a stage where 90% of the players you play against are your size or 4 inches taller, 5 inches taller. So you have to be able to play through contact. You have to be able to. You can't shoot step back threes all game long. So I think he's got a lot to worry about. When my dad told me that fact that he didn't play USA basketball, that shocked me. Is his dad trying to keep him out of certain exposure because he's gonna get embarrassed? Like, what's going on?
Or I know the USA basketball circuit, Patrick. They're gonna tell you to step on the other side of the line.
Exactly.
You don't get that VIP set. They'll be like, no, everybody else over there.
Exactly.
We got this. You got to go. We got these.
Right. Exactly. Then also, this isn't I'm shocked that his AAU team this summer is not up to par, because he played this national schedule with this Ypsilanti school, and every time I saw him on TV, they were getting embarrassed there.
I know.
Jets team killed him.
That Chet Holmgren team in Wisconsin, that's a Wisconsin, that's their superstar team. That's an AAU team.
Yeah.
That wasn't a regular high school team they played against. Why are you taking regular high school players from Ypsilanti to go play them? It's I think it's counterproductive personally.
Yeah.
But he needs.
And they were out of Minnesota. Those Chet Holmgren's people.
Minnesota, right? Sorry, Minnesota, right?
They went for the. They went.
He needs.
He gave him a check.
He needs to dive into a nutritionist and a trainer, strength and conditioning trainer specifically for basketball. There's a reason LeBron James spends $2 million on his body a year.
Right.
If you're gonna be a top player in the world, because they play basketball in every country now. This isn't football where they're only playing here. They're playing all around the world. There's kids in all over Europe trying to come over here and take your cookies. I'm telling you. So he needs to dive into strength and conditioning, and he needs to physically get a lot better than what he is. Because I told my dad this. I said this on the show a week ago. I don't think if he went to Michigan State next year, who could he play against? Gabe Brown would swallow him up. He's a baby compared to him. So.
Hey, I get it. Here's what I want to say in closing, and I think it's worthwhile to extend the podcast to talk about this. Speaking of Elgin in particular, and I know Elgin, I consider Elgin to be a friend. I've been out here with him, and the thing is this: he's a protective dad, but I still want to say for the culture that we have to remember that he's still ours. I talked to Terry about this before, meaning that through all this corporate wrangling he's gone through that Jon brought up, the fact that he's going to be part of the corporate machine, that at the end of the day, hiccups come and things happen. And even though everyone has an opinion about him, and Elgin has a reputation for being gruff and rough as it relates to being this Papa Bear for his kid, I don't care what people say, that's the reputation that he has. I believe that even when everything happens, we still need to bring him home as ours, because eventually that corporate machine is going to spit him out. They're going to spit him out and not care. And as we've always done as a community, when we're there to receive him back, I just want us to better receive him to come back when those challenges come. You're right. There's a lot of things that need to be worked on. I know coaches that have given him scouting reports after they beat him and haven't seen anything change. And I think the one advice I would have for Elgin is that you got to be okay with some of this criticism. Now, to Terry's point, a lot of it may be overboard and he's a kid, but a lot of it too, to Jon's point, you need to get you a buffer so you can just step back and also kind of be a dad. And because when you're a dad and not in that coaching role, you don't let the lines get crossed where you are always coming back at everybody who says something at your son. It ain't like people calling him names. They just saying, oh, I think this about his game. I don't even think that there's been anybody making any reference to his character. There's been no reference to his character. There's been things about his game. And I just think that despite all this, it's going to get rough in a sense because it's not going to always be peaches and cream and a rosy story. And I just think that when all that does happen, we need to be ready to receive him, to come back, to give him support, like Terry said. And to Jon's point, that corporate machine is about to work its magic in the sense of trying to make him a superstar. And throughout all that, because I know Elgin, and I've been around him, and I've had long conversations with him, and we've had differences of opinion and healthy discussions. And I think that we still can disagree as a community, but still be behind someone and support them. And it doesn't mean just because we disagree or see something different that we're out to get you. So with that being said, man, I want to thank you guys. We went a little bit further than our original time, but go ahead, Jon. I'm sorry,
before we end this, I got to give a shout out to Big Four. Malik McDowell got signed to the Browns.
Got a comeback.
Michigan State alumni. Got to get my boy out there.
Can I say one thing, Lindsey?
Absolutely.
Happy birthday to the greatest baseball player that ever lived. Willie Mays is 90 years young today.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Was my favorite player and had more tools in his case than any guy I ever saw play baseball. I loved watching him. Happy birthday to Say Hey Kid.
Shout out to Willie Mays. I appreciate that. Well, I want to say I appreciate you guys. Patrick, you've been an excellent addition to our show. And
Thank you.
Terry, I'm glad you're able to kind of come and keep bringing it in. Orlando, though we don't see you as much, we know you're there right on time, dropping those, memes. He's like, yep. He said, that's right. I got something for you with that. And I think another time we had another great show. Shout out to the Streets of Talking Podcast Network. Shout out to the SWAC. Shout out to Don Houston, as well as Clarence Babor, and of course our sponsor, Horatio Williams and the Horatio Williams Foundation, as well as Dick's Sporting Good and Gilead Sciences. So with that, we'll be back next week. Thank you guys for listening, and hope this enlightened your day, and appreciate your support. All right. Peace out.